quiet gays? Where are the quiet gays supposed to go?
How are you?
Oh, I just I had a late work day yesterday. We were supposed to wrap at 6:30, and 6:30 sure did come and go. And what do you know? It was 10 o'clock and I got home and I was like, all right, I have been there so long, so long, since the wee hours of the morning. So yeah, long day. And I woke up this morning and like every part of my body hurts, you know?
That always happens to you because of your autoimmune stuff.
Yeah. So we're kicking it with the ibuprofen too.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Not last night, the night before, I slept like 10 hours because I was like not feeling well. I got home from work yesterday and I literally just like I made like a little like corn avocado salsa and then I ate it and then I passed out.
Yeah. I had the ultimate girl dinner the other day. You want to know what I ate for dinner?
Yes.
Crackers and chocolate.
That sounds delicious and like something I would want to have tonight. I do have to tell you though, this salsa, it's not a salsa. I just don't know what to call it because I eat it with chips, so it makes me think it's a salsa. It's corn, avocado, cotija cheese, lime, mayo, and cilantro.
Yeah, call it a salsa.
Yeah, and tahini and a little bit of salt.
Call it a salsa, girl.
It's a salsa, right? Like a corn salsa?
Yeah.
Okay, well, it's my hyperfixation right now, and it's all I want to eat. It's so fresh, and it's so good.
That's that summertime corn salsa.
Yeah.
Listen, we're big corn here.
That's true.
This is big corn, advertising for corn. To my Uncle Jim in Nebraska, not a corn farmer, but he sure does like that corn college because he is a professor. So shout out Uncle Jim and Big Corn.
Shout out Big Corn. I was literally going to say, you are corn farmers, aren't you? That's what I need to grow in my garden is corn. Everyone in this house likes corn, but my garden looks so cute out there.
Oh,
I got cucumbers and they like have the little baby cucumbers coming in behind the flowers.
you can make pickles.
I hate pickles.
Oh, there's something wrong with you.
It is all of my least favorite things about food in one. It's green, it's crunchy, and it's vinegary, and I hate all three of those things.
Okay.
I've had a lot of time to process why I don't like pickles, apparently. Okay, should we get into this book?
Yes, from our saint patron, that's the wrong thing. From our saint patron, Margaret Vandenburg, we received America to Paris.
Which is the prequel, correct, to Craze.
That is correct.
Am I not remembering things correctly? I have questions about it being the prequel because it almost sounds like it's like after Craze.
This is super before because this is the inception of Henri's journalism career.
Yeah, I know, but I felt like she was so confident in this book. And I feel like in Craze at the beginning, she's not confident.
That's interesting.
Confused. Like I was like I don't know. Maybe it was like a false confidence or something in this book because I know she like very much shifts her like look in the second book and but you know what I'm saying? Like I felt like she was so much like vibrato and like just like esteem in this book to like go toe to toe with these like literary giants. And then in the next book she's like scared to approach a femme.
I think that she, in the first half of this book, did not have confidence. But what in herself, I don't think that she had confidence in herself as like a person. But I think that career-wise, she had fervor I think she had big aspirations and she was willing to do what it took. And her dream was to get in the room where it happens with all of these people who she was just like she was drawn to.
Yeah. I literally
And
thought that so many times. And the book was about Hamilton. I was like, this is the exact song I was thinking of was in the room where it happened.
yes, and she was just willing to take the risk, because what's the worst thing that was going to happen to her?
Yeah.
They would say no.
Right.
She would be more of a nobody than she already was.
Right.
She had nothing to lose. But I think now in Craze, she did have a status to lose, because she had been this journalist who had some sort of status, who had interviewed all of these huge figures in avant-garde art.
Yeah.
And also there's this element of like, when you move to a new place and you're completely exposed and alone, a lot of confidence is just naturally stripped.
Yeah. Yeah. See, I feel like if I moved to a new place, I'd be like, I can be anyone I want to be. No one knows me here. Like, what persona can I put on to, and then like fake it till you make it. But I think that's just my Capricorn self.
That is a way that people could handle it. I think Henri is not quite like you.
True, right. Okay, so this book is a short read and well, okay, I wouldn't say it's an easy read, because Margaret is just like one of the smartest women I have ever fucking read or encountered in my entire life. And I was like, I am looking up words. I have to reread a sentence here and there, which I don't normally get with our books. But it is only about 200 pages, which I appreciated, because I had to read it in one day because I fell behind. But you know what? It was great. And afterwards I had like 2 glasses of red wine, and it was just, I was like, oh, I feel like I'm in Paris.
You know what was also really cute is she wrote us notes in these books.
I didn't get notes.
Did you look in your
Oh, in the front?
Yeah.
Yes, I thought you meant she annotated it for us.
Oh, I was like
you more than me.
But also, it's really lucky that we ended up with the correct book, because I just gave you one not realizing that she had written these in here.
That's really cute. Yeah, no, it's super cute. I love it's so great that we can connect with these authors, and like I mean, we do know Margaret because we interviewed her, but to like really know these authors and have them write us like personal notes is like just
so special. I opened it up and I was like, ah!
I know. And her writing is so like an author. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, I would love to see her like manuscripts if she wrote them in like handwritten instead of like on a computer.
In a museum.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It looks like old-timey like writing. I don't know. It's not even cursive, but it just reminds me of that.
Yeah. She's gonna come on here and say, Lauren, are you calling me old?
I know she is. I thought that. I'm not calling you old, I promise. I almost said it. That's hilarious. Yeah, we definitely need to talk to Margaret again, because yeah, this book was so much fun. I kind of annotated a couple places that I definitely want to talk about. There was one spot where I think they're in Gertrude Stein's salon, and it's like, you know, Picasso and Ernest Hemingway, which I need to talk about my connection to Ernest Hemingway. It's not really a big one. It's through Sandra Bullock. So,
wait, are you connected to Sandra Bullock?
I wish. No, I had a very gay girl obsession with Sandra Bullock from the time I was like 4th grade until I was like 16. I was like obsessed with her. I know everything about her. But she was in a movie called In Love and War, which she plays a World War I nurse who falls in love with Ernest Hemingway. And Ernest Hemingway is played by Chris O'Donnell. And he is the other lead in the book. And it was just like a pure romance. I should not have been watching it as like an 11-year-old, because, oh my God, it's spicy and gory and all the things that World War I romance would be. But yeah, when that led me down rabbit holes because of my like ADHD of like learning things about Ernest Hemingway through Wikipedia at the time. So when Ernest Hemingway pops up in the book, I'm like, hey, I know him. So just bringing back another.
That can't be.
You remember you belong to me. But yeah, anyway, I was just like, oh, all these little characters I know. But there's a part where they're all talking and Henry's there, and I wrote, and they're talking about, you're gonna love this. It's for me, well, yeah, I guess you have the same exact book, page 76, but they're just all talking, they're all talking about like, oh, they're gay, and oh, they're gay. And I was like, this is a conversation I have daily about how everyone is gay. At least like everyone in Hollywood, they're all just theater kids.
I was at a women's sports bar the other day, and I felt like I was in an episode of The L Word. Like I had this very surreal moment where I just suddenly was detached from reality, and I just looked around and it was as if everything was in slow motion. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I'm living the L Word. This is weird.
That's literally why the L Word is so relatable even still, because it's like just a group of queer people, like queer women getting together, and like we live that daily. So it's really fucking funny. I love that, Haley.
It was so wild.
Oh my gosh. Okay, well, let's get into the plot of this. It's a short book, so this probably won't be an incredibly long episode, everyone, but we hope you
we'll see about that.
I know. Well, also I have like a hard out at like 11:45-ish, so
okay.
But I don't think that's gonna be a problem.
Okay.
But we will see about that.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Should we start from the very beginning and like the way that she perceives Saphists from
let's
the
go.
Initiation of this book?
Yeah, I'm down.
Okay.
I'm gonna have you take that away because you clearly have a good bent on that.
Yeah, so at the very beginning, she has this perception of Sapphis at Radcliffe College, which is where she attended. And they all dressed very ladylike, which I was like, okay, this is so different, clearly, from our lives, because everyone who is gay obviously has like very different expressions. Mm-hmm. And there are many, many, many gay people and queer people that express themselves like much more on the masculine side. And it's very easy to pick them out if you're like in tune with that.
Right.
Or even not necessarily masculine, but like there's certain tells.
Gender non-conforming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like many of them, it's on purpose so that others of us in the community recognize this. If you're listening to this, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And so this was really interesting to me to think about, of all of them are just dressing ladylike, like they have these tight buns and corsets, but what set them apart is their swagger.
Yes.
The way they carried themselves made them distinctive, and that's how you could tell, because they had to still conform with the way that they dressed, but it didn't keep them in a total conformity to society. They still found a way in the way that they carried their bodies to express who they were.
Yeah, and I think that's just like a nod to just community and culture, and like no matter what, we will find our people. Mm-hmm. And we always have tells, like queer people have always had to like exist in the margins. And so we're always going to find each other through shared nonverbal language.
Right.
And you see that in like, I forget if it's like the 50s, the 60s with like signet rings, like lesbians would wear pinky rings and that would signify that they were gay. Or you had Friends of Dorothy. You had all these little things that would signal to the people who were like in the if you know crowd. And that helped people be seen and heard and make connections.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I loved that image. It was so exciting for me to think about. Then, I mean, we start getting into her movement from, she grew up in Utah, right? And it feels like a little bit personal to me because she's talking about this well-intentional hick morality and how she's mourning her defection to the East Coast liberalism.
Right.
And sorry, not that she's mourning it, but her community is mourning her defection.
Right.
And I really related to that because, and I think honestly, anybody who comes from like a small town conservative area can really relate to this. And this is very relevant to today because honestly, I think I was just talking about this the other day with one of my family members, is that there are many people who are like swept up in a lot of the like very like brainwashy culty beliefs that are super ultra right wing, that like there's not honestly a ton of logic or like compassion behind, that are these people often in every other facet of their lives. Like my whole life I've grown up knowing them to be very good, kind, compassionate people, and then it makes no sense. Like there's this huge dissonance between what I see now and what I've seen in every other aspect. And then they mourn like me and me just being like who I am now as a person, and like liberal and gay and living in a city, and very much like Henri is here in this book. And so that's just this super, that was the thing. And it's not like there's necessarily any resolution to it, and she never finds any resolution to it, but like that is something that she's experiencing with her own family, that I'm like, I felt that really hard, and I'm sure so many other people do.
Yeah, I think it's a really common experience, especially because, you know, it is a common experience to grow up in your hometown and then have to recognize yourself as somebody who doesn't necessarily fit in for whatever reason. And then, you know, you do, like you said, you love these people, you know, and for them to mourn your personhood.
Yes.
It's sad for you.
Yeah. It's the experience of knowing that you just are the same person you've been your entire life, but now you're saying it out loud, or you're showing who it is, and they are sad.
Yeah, and you're like, I haven't changed.
Yeah.
Yeah, Henri definitely goes through that, but how does she deal with it? She jet sets off to Paris to follow her dreams. And I'm like, good for you. Like, get out of that staunchy little town. Go do whatever you want to do. Like, life is short. I think we're like realizing that more and more. It's just like, just go be happy. If you're not happy, don't do it. If you're not happy, get out. Go somewhere else where people are going to love you.
Yes. And she almost immediately, I mean, okay, so she goes over, just to set the scene, she goes over because she has dreams to be a journalist. Right. And she very quickly finds her niche in the avant-garde scene, and she's like, Gertrude Stein, can I get an interview? Bam! Lands interview.
I'm like, damn, she's got to be like a Sagittarius or something, because she's lucky, like ruled by Jupiter in some way or the other, because how do you just like walk over and get it like that?
Here's where she was very, very smart, because she knew that Gertrude Stein likes to be the first and has an ego.
Oh my God, does she?
Yeah.
I love it though. I love it. I'm like, you know what? It works for you.
Yeah. At least in this story. And here's where I would love to know, like, okay, in real life, how much fictional liberty did Margaret take with the characters, and how much of it is like historically true?
Yeah.
You know, I don't know how much. I haven't like researched, did Gertrude Stein have a huge ego? But
I'm about to Google it right now.
But in this book, Gertrude Stein has a huge ego for our purposes. Okay. So we are with Gertrude Stein, who has agreed to this because she has been told, okay, there's about to be this brand new avant-garde column in this magazine.
Wait, can I say something really quick before we go past the Gertrude Stein ego thing? It's like, did she have a huge ego, or were the people who were writing about her intimidated by her and wrote her to have a huge ego? Like, you know what I mean? However, I did do the Google that I just said I was going to do, and it does say that she was known to have a large ego and immense self-confidence. I don't see anything wrong with that, but I am wondering, like, in the historical account of her, like, did people are normally offended by like a mass amount of self-confidence, whether it's warranted or not. So I don't know. I just like, she's a woman, she's a lesbian. Like, how much can we trust about her ego from people who are writing about her? Who was writing?
Oh, absolutely. I mean? Yeah, we absolutely have to look at who was writing about her. Was it men? Or yeah. I think it absolutely depends on who was doing the writing. There's also a part out in the book in which Henri is talking about how when she is speaking to Gertrude, there's just no, whatever Gertrude says, it's like the ultimate statement from God. There's, once she's said it, that's it. There's no arguing with it. And like, if you have a difference of opinion, there's no use saying it.
Yeah, actually, I have that quote because it's one of the ones I underlined. It said, with Gertrude Stein, I could already tell it was pointless to argue. Yet things like this always cropped up. Ridiculous, unequivocal declarations that discounted whole legions of human beings. But what if depression is constitutional? What if it's a disease like cholera?
Yes, that one.
I underlined that because I was like, hold on. Like, she takes like a very nuanced topic and is like, this is how I feel about it. And so that is right.
Yes, she has very black and white thinking, and she's extremely, I'm right no matter what. And if you argue with me, like, okay, then fuck you, bye.
Yeah.
Yeah, she doesn't want a debate.
No, not at all. A little bit further down, really quick, because it's another little part that I underlined. This is hilarious because they start talking about Freud, and I love how Freud is in this because like now we know Freud was like a literal quack. But at the time he was so well respected, but not by Gertrude Stein. And I fucking love that because I just feel like sometimes people who live on the outside of binaries and the outside of what is considered to be the right way to live have their fingers on the pulse of who is a quack. Like who's just peddling shit, right? Because it's Gertrude Stein talking. She says, from Dr. Freud, where else? Leo's not the first perfectly normal human being that damned pervert has seduced with all his erotic talk about pathology. And she's referencing, I believe, like lesbianism. And what's something really interesting about Freud in some of the research I did is he believed that for women, lesbianism was always the father's fault. Like just very much how they felt like homosexuality in men was like the mom's fault. He felt that with lesbianism, it was the father's fault. And guess what? His fucking daughter was a lesbian. And I'm just like, I love the poetic justice of that.
Can we say today's Freud is RFK Jr.?
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God. I know.
Yeah.
Crazy medical quack that people think knows something about something because he just talks with aggression. Anyway.
To your point about Henri's confidence and Gertrude being just, this is how Henrietta became Henri.
Yes.
Gertrude meets her and says, oh, you're Henri? And she goes, yes. And from then on, she has a new name.
I love that, though. I literally love that part because it's like, she didn't even think about that being her name. And then when Gertrude said it, she was like, that sounds more accurate than what I even call myself. So yes, I am Henri now.
Yeah, it was like, she was just so struck by the force that is Gertrude that she just accepted it.
Yeah. Yep. She's like, okay, this one
Yeah.
can't be my name. Call me what you want.
Yeah. And then they have this conversation right after this. Okay, so this is this first interview, and Henri is just like so frustrated because she feels like she's getting nowhere in this interview because Gertrude like speaks in riddles. And also it's Gertrude kind of like tests people because she does not want to deal with people who she does not feel like are on her same intellectual field of play, right? So she's kind of testing Henri to see if she's gonna like kick the ball back in the same way.
Right. But Henri knows it's a test too. So she
does, but she's not quite getting it at first.
No.
And one of these conversations that is popping up out of here actually really struck me, and I loved this concept. And it was, I'll read it. Is that your role as an artist, to tell people the truth? My role as an artist is to be who I am. And who is that? I am I because my little dog knows me. And Henri was very frustrated by that statement because she's like, well, what the fuck is that supposed to mean?
Right.
But to me, I was like, oh my gosh, yes, that makes perfect sense. Because a little dog has little to no defense against you and relies on you to care for it. And it's completely at your mercy. It's present for all of your states of being, from your best moments to your worst moments when you might retaliate against it, make it pay for something that it didn't do. Maybe it like acted out and now you're mad at it. It's at your mercy. You could punt that dog. You could do whatever you want to that little dog and it can't do anything except for like maybe inflict a tiny bit of damage against you. Right. And at the same time, you could be so loving to that dog. You could show nothing but love to that dog in its entire life, despite any feeling that you might have, right? Mm-hmm. And also, you can say or think whatever you want around a dog, and it's not gonna know. Like, it'll pick up on your weird little nuances and the tones of your voice, and it knows who you are in that way. But you just are who you are, and you can be whoever you want, and you have like a sort of freedom around this little dog that you don't have around another person. Yeah. And it knows you so intimately because of that, right? So that's what that meant to me, and I was like, oh my gosh, yep, I know what she means.
And I am now a student of Gertrude Stein. Oh my gosh. And then Henri finally figures it out, thankfully, and writes this incredible article. Her editors love it. I loved the back and forth with the editors in this book. Every single time it was like, you're so amazing, you're so amazing. I have this critique. Don't worry about it though, it's fine. And you see it like how that changes throughout her writing, and I feel like it tracks her confidence level. Like you were saying, like at the beginning, it's like, oh, we have these little critiques because you're conforming. And as she goes through her writing, we see they start being like, this is not okay. This is not okay. And she just doesn't care. And I think it tracks Henri's confidence kind of throughout the book as well. But this first article is a massive hit. Kind of solidifies like, oh, the editors, we made a good choice in picking her to go do this. Like, you're already in, like, you're so great. And that's how she kind of gets invited into the salons, which is, and we meet Gertrude Stein's partner, Alice Toklas. I loved the way she was kind of introduced before she made her appearance. Like, Margaret writes this great scene of Henri trying to find the salon. And she like finds these women and she talks about French women and how they're so unapproachable and they're so scary. And she does it anyway. And they're like, oh, you mean Gertrude Stein, that like big lady, blah, blah, blah. And oh, Alice Toklas, the one with the mustache, la, 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 la. Oh, no, we don't know them. And I was like, oh, yes, you do. I would have been like, I feel like I'm so American in that way. Like where they're like, oh, I love how she writes about Americans. And I'm like, I kind of hate this about myself, but like constantly naive and like this is like very rule oriented. This is how the world works. And why doesn't everyone fit into this category? And, and in this instant, I really saw, and it's something I want to work on. I don't want to be like that. I want to be more cultured and like, the world doesn't always have to work that way. Not everyone has to be nice. It's fine. But in that moment, I felt for Henri because I was just like, she just wants to find where they are. Like, just tell her where they are. You don't have to be cruel about it. But so she meets Alice Toklas, and who is kind of talked about as like, if we want to go with gender norms to describe her as like the wife of the two wives, the more domestic one, the one who, runs the household type thing. And I think Henri is kind of like worried about this encounter.
Because she's the gatekeeper.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. She's the one that she's already made friends with Gertrude, but she has to get Alice's approval to be able to stick around.
And Alice doesn't like competition.
No, that's the whole thing, is that if Alice feels threatened by anything, that thing is gone.
Mm-hmm.
And Gertrude, as domineering as she is in many aspects of life, will defer to Alice about pretty much anything within the household, right?
Happy wife, happy life.
Yeah. And it's really interesting watching the dynamic inside the salon, because what this salon is, and we end up being able to compare the salons of Natalie Barney and Gertrude Stein later on. But what Gertrude Stein's salon is she curates a group of people who feed her intellectual ego.
Right.
Nobody in that room is smarter than she perceives herself to be. But they all can converse with her at the intellectual level that will stimulate her.
Right.
About the things that she wants to talk about.
It's like she wants to be challenged to a point.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And Alice's job is to keep the wives of these mostly men entertained. Even though a lot of these men's wives, a lot of these men are in lavender marriages, which we've talked about. So a lot of these wives are also sapphic. And a lot of them are authors, artists in their own right. Like, not Picasso's wife, Ernest Hemingway's wife is a lesbian.
Yeah.
And, I think Alice is also incredibly smart, and she relishes having someone to talk to that is not Gertrude. But I also think she likes to give these women the opportunity to like exist apart from their husbands, because in regular society, they're just the wives. But here, yes, they are the wives, but they get to kind of live amongst their own peers and be who they are,
Yeah, that's part of it. There's also some of them should be in the part of the salon talking with the people that Gertrude has collected to be part of this, like, well, the salon, the
exactly
intellectual conversation. But Alice perceives them as threats to her and Gertrude's relationship.
Yep.
And so she keeps them separate over here.
Yeah, and that's another really interesting contrast between Natalie Barney's salon and Gertrude Stein's salon is Gertrude Stein's salon is like the very stuffy, we still conform to this like idea of monogamy. We conform to like, you're a threat, so I have to keep you away. And then we look at Natalie Barney's salon, and I get that there's pros and cons to both of them, obviously, but Natalie Barney is this like free loving, she has a partner like Alice Toklas, who is her like partner. But Natalie also likes to have like these rendezvous and these trysts and things. And as long as like the partner is like, I don't want to know about it, but I'm not gonna like, I know I can't stop you. I don't know. I just felt like, what is the point that I'm trying to get at here? I lost it, but it'll come back to me.
I think the values are just placed differently. Like,
Yeah.
there's a value on free love
Mm-hmm.
in Natalie's salon, and there's a value on monogamy in Gertrude's salon. And also, Natalie's salon is oriented less on making Natalie's ego feel good and more on her collecting groups of people that she finds interesting.
Yes.
It's her collection, and she's also helping other people connect. She loves to be a matchmaker, and she kind of relishes in like the human connectivity of it all.
Okay, see that, thank you. You reminded me of my point where I was going with is yes, the human connection of it all. However, I feel like there's a lot more emotional hurt that happens in Natalie Barney's salon. While the stuffiness of Gertrude Stein, they're trying to preserve hurt feelings. Alice and Gertrude.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're like,
Yeah.
we love each other. And yes, we have all of this like infinite possibilities at our feet, but we are connected to each other. And we're not going to let anything break that because that's their like root. That's their root into the ground. Their safe space is like the two of them together. And while they can acknowledge that like, yeah, there's all this stuff around, like Alice is trying to keep that root, safe by not allowing women that would be maybe even more on Gertrude's intellectual level, not that Alice isn't, but away from her, even though they should be there. In Natalie Barney's salon, that would never happen. Like people can converse with who they want to converse with, whether it's a threat. But you do see then when that does happen, the hurt that intermixes with that intermingling, right? Like we see it at the play at the very end, which of course we'll talk about. But
Yeah.
I just found it really interesting. And it's like, I don't know. I mean, I think I know which salon I would pick, but at the same time, I can see why I might go against my inclination to pick Natalie's salon to go to Gertrude's salon and be like, I want to be challenged intellectually and I don't want to deal with all of the emotional drama that comes from Natalie's salon, right? Like if I had to pick, clearly you don't have to pick really in this time frame or in this book, you can go to both, but I can see why some people prefer one over the other.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Henri makes it past her test with Alice and is like ingratiated into the salon at Gertrude Stein's. And Gertrude Stein is like setting her up with interviews. Like she gets an interview with Picasso. She gets an interview with a guy's name that I just bypassed in my head all the time when I was reading the book. But it's so there's this mini subplot about these art thefts that goes on.
Conweiler.
Thank you, Conweiler. This is why I do audiobooks, okay? Yes, Conweiler. She's there to interview him, and all of a sudden, so she's talking to this like super annoying American woman, and they bust in and they're like, everyone has to come down to the police station. Like, there's been an art theft, and it's this is like the third one from this guy's gallery. And you're like, this is an interesting subplot. I'm here for it. I'm always here for a detective, little tryst. And the thing is, Henri is a journalist, so she's very observant. And she's like, telling me about these paintings, but I've seen these paintings, and I feel like this, and she's seen them in Gertrude Stein's salon, and she's seen them at Picasso's. And they're their paintings, or whoever's paintings that were stolen, they were in their own salons or in Gertrude Stein's. And she's like, this is so interesting because I normally equate intellectualism and things with like moral high ground, right? But I feel like this is an insurance scam. And I found this really fucking interesting because you think that Gertrude Stein, and the morals and what we were just talking about with the roots and like we're going to keep everything without drama. But then they have this like moral grayness where they're running this like insurance scam. And you're like, these two salons are the same. They're just doing different things because of how they see the world. They don't see the world in black and white. They're like, this is feeding starving artists. And one of these artists has a medical issue that he needs to pay for. And, we're not, the artists are not recognized in their time or whatever. So they're getting their money up front. Like, and then Natalie Barney, on the other hand, is like, we're just going to fucking love everyone and fuck everyone, regardless of the emotional, moral issues that come from that. And I find it so interesting that this is the way these two moral conundrums played out.
Mhm.
Sorry, that was like a whole thing that I don't think was very coherent. But yeah, so what did you think of this art scam that was going on?
Yes, I thought it was a very useful tool to begin. Okay, what happened to Henri here is this is where her image of Gertrude started to crumble and shatter a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
This is where she starts doubting Gertrude's, I don't know exactly the word I'm looking for, but like her image of her before was that she was flawless. Like she was this kind of giant in every way.
Like
not just a giant woman, but a giant
like a perfect beacon of an expatriate that's living her dream in the art world in Paris, like Henri wanted to do.
Yeah. And now she's seeing, oh, okay, so she actually does make some questionable choices that I'm not really sure I'm on board with.
Mm-hmm.
And she is willing to maybe not like rat her out, but here's where the journalist inside of her is starting to have some problems, because now she's getting into conversations with Gertrude where she's finding out that Gertrude sees politics as separate from art. And let me find actually exactly. Yeah, okay, so Gertrude and Alice are completely, honestly, indifferent to politics and world affairs because they think that they infringe on Gertrude's genius is what they thought. So the train of thought here being, okay, that all of this muddy stuff of the world will also come in and just muddy up all of the genius happening in Gertrude's brain. So like, you keep that away.
Right.
And keep this pure and clear. And the politics and injustices of the world, those really have nothing to do with art. But what Henri knows is that actually art has everything to do with the world and injustices and politics, and it's how we speak about it. And that art is how we express what we are experiencing, and it's how other people are able to experience and interpret our own experiences and expressions. And so it's like one of the most human ways of communicating with each other, right? And one of the most like emotionally powerful ways of communicating and making a powerful difference that like actually moves people to want to do something. And so it's a very important tool in politics, right, and activism. And these are all things that are important to Henri. And so she is finding this gap between her and Gertrude in this subject matter. And it's not something that she is really able to just kind of glaze over. Mm-hmm. And so this is where she's starting to feel herself grow away. It's where she's starting to get negative feedback from her editor because she's not able anymore to just conform and write what they want her to and cover up the queerness of the avant-garde community, right, and make things seem to be what they're not to make people more comfortable.
Yeah.
And she is feeling the need to be honest. And what she's had to do her entire life is be dishonest in order to keep people comfortable.
Yeah.
So this is where things like it's really coming to a head. And I think that this insurance scam was kind of a tool to like get that in movement.
Yeah, and she also writes about it in her column, which I can't remember. Do you remember the feedback? Because Gertrude is obviously reading these articles that she's putting out. Do you remember what her reaction was, or if there was one?
I remember Gertrude telling her to leave it alone.
That's right. She's just like, leave
Yeah.
it alone. Yeah, because Henri confronted her about it and was like, I want the truth. And this is what I was talking about, where Margaret was writing about Americans and like needing the truth and needing these things, and how like she juxtaposes that with the culture in Paris and France, you know, just being very like ebb and flow, like whatever kind of gets you ahead, whatever kind of like, you know, gets you further in life or makes you happy is kind of the right thing, versus like morality, right and wrong, black and white type of thinking. Okay, so this is kind of the part in the book where Henri gets to go out one night, and this is like probably the biggest kind of plot point that was like super fun and absolutely shocked me at the end. When I got to the end, I texted Haley and I was like, oh my God, I cannot believe who it is. Like it was such a shock to me. I did not call that for a freaking second. So Henri goes out one night in the underground scene, lesbian scene that there often is. And, you know, she's not sure where she stands, because there's like, you either dress very much like a man or you dress very, very feminine. And she was like, I don't know where I stand. Okay, go, Haley.
Okay, right before this, they say Henri's self-image as a frumpy aardvark in comparison to the feminine gazelle. And that made me laugh so hard, imagining an aardvark in like frumpy clothes walking around with all of the femmes in the bars.
Oh my God. She's like, well, I guess I know which category I'm in.
And then there's this whole thing about like her having to change the way that she stylistically puts herself out there.
Right.
But continue.
Okay, no. So yes, there is that part, but I'm more interested in this woman that she meets. So she's kind of like has to make a choice. Like, am I gonna be masc or am I gonna be femme? Like putting it in our terms that we use, you know, and she's like, well, I definitely don't look like those femmes, so I guess I'm a masc. And you know, she goes for this drink. She goes to talk to this one girl. And, you know, the thing about France and Paris is like sexually very open and very different than the puritanical, you know, America that Henri, especially Utah, is used to. And I always think about Gentleman Jack and Anne Lister telling Anne, the other Anne, about Paris. And she's like, men put holes over there in their pockets. And Anne Walker's like, whatever for? And she's like, Anne Lister has to like spell it out, like they're perverts. Like it's so they can pleasure themselves like in public, you know? And I just, Haley's face. Oh, we gotta watch Gentleman Jack. And you know, Anne Walker can't even handle it. And I just think about that because she goes to talk to this woman. She goes to like hit on this woman. She gets her drink. And the girl's like, do you like BDSM basically? And Henri like doesn't know how to answer. And then another woman comes in and just completely steals this girl that she's hitting on, because like Henri is just like, does not understand the culture yet. But then this other woman walks in and it seems like everyone is very scared of her. Like she just has this like aura and this dominance. She's also kind of like very masculine presenting. And Henri doesn't understand why she's so attracted to this. I was like, I get you, girl. But yeah, and like the bartender doesn't even want to serve her, and she just like comes into the middle of this room and like zeroes in on Henri, and is just like, you're the one tonight that I am going to like be with. And Henri is just like enraptured. She has no idea what's going on. She's like, I don't, kind of the way I thought about it was like, I don't really do mask for mask, but I guess tonight I am. Like, that's how I thought about it when reading it. Like the way Henri was talking about it. What was your initial? Oh, and they go to me. They don't give each other their real names, except Henri thinks that she did give her real name, or no, she didn't. Did she? I can't remember.
Yeah, Henri thinks that the other person gave
her real name, right?
her real name. Yes.
I thought so. So Henri tells her that her name is Alec. And you in what Margaret wrote, you can see that like, okay, hindsight's 2020. And like we know that this other woman knew who Henri was, but Henri did not know who this woman was. So she gave her a fake name too, like, oh, this is a fun game. But Henri thinks it's like her real name the whole time, is like constantly searching for her.
Yeah, she gives the name Manfred.
Yes, which made me think of Handmaid's Tale, Offred. And I like
haven't seen it yet.
Oh. It's too far now. You can't go back and watch it. It's not like a binge show. You cannot binge that.
No. It's one that I've been avoiding because I think that I'm too
you're too sensitive for it. You can't.
Exactly. It's
and
like
that's a good thing.
Too emotionally heavy for me at this moment.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't suggest you watching it.
Yeah.
I didn't watch the last season. I just watched clips because I was like, I can't do it. I can't do it anymore. But anyway, what was your you want to tell us about the night they go on?
This is where the made-up sex toy comes in that I have scoured the internet to figure out if it's real. And
the wheel? The wheel. Yes.
Yeah, and I think that Margaret made it up. I don't know, but I have like this vision. I want to know if Margaret made that up in my head of what it is. I'm very
like a big wooden wheel, and then there's like another one, but there's like suspension. Like I see like falling from ceilings. I'm so confused as to what this is.
In my mind, it's like a giant hamster wheel, and you're both strapped in to opposite sides, except one person has like straps that they can control you like a puppet.
Okay. Yeah, we got Margaret, can you draw this for us so we can see?
And when you look up the wheel, all that comes up is like those prickly, spiny, like pinwheels that I guess you roll over.
Oh, people. Right. Yeah.
And that's not what I'm looking for, internet. So I just am wondering, first of all, Margaret, is this real? Second of all, Margaret, in what places do you get these? Like in dungeons?
That's what I'm thinking, like underground BDSM. Okay, because but how did we get there?
These are clearly too tall to go in a house. Like in an apartment, it would take up the whole thing.
That's true. So if you haven't noticed, Henri and Manfred go to this other club that is like an underground dominatrix type sex club, which I was like, oh my God. I was like, this is crazy.
And the whole thing is like open air, not in the sense that it's outside, but in the sense that it's just like people all around everywhere doing their thing on all these toys.
Yeah. But before that, Henri and Manfred like have sex in front of everyone.
Yeah.
And this is what I'm saying about the confidence going from American in Paris to Craze.
I feel like Henri was just drunk on Manfred.
Yeah, she was like, I'll do whatever you want.
Yeah. There was some sort of like crazy power that Manfred had over her because Henri was like obsessed with her after this night.
I mean, she completely showed her a new world that she didn't, and new experiences that she didn't even know existed. And I think that can be really intoxicating, you know? You're just like, wow, I didn't know this about myself. Didn't know I was going to enjoy that. And then she was even saying to herself, like, how do I go back to like
the normalcy of life after like experiencing this. Like I want to experience it again.
Yeah, or like, how
yeah.
do I have pleasure in regular sex anymore?
Yeah. Yeah, no, seriously, because you're like, I didn't know I had this about myself. But this kind of is like what leads her to Natalie Barney's salon. You know,
Mhm.
like she was kind of like, maybe I am interested in more than just intellectualism. Maybe I do want to like, you know, experience things that I didn't think I would necessarily have been interested in before. And that leads her to Natalie.
Yeah, there was an intrigue there, and she was hoping that she would turn over a rock somewhere that Manfred would appear under.
Yeah.
Also, I want to talk about and hear what you think about. I thought it was a really interesting choice that I don't even think it was a choice. I think it was like an impulse that just came over her that she gave the name Alec, and the way that she presented herself that night. And she was talking about, too, like people were kind of ridiculing her, or she felt like maybe they were, because she felt so insecure her first time dressing masculine. And that she did it like for the purpose of pulling feminine women, because she knew that in order to get a feminine woman, she needed to dress in this way. Otherwise, they would not be interested in her in this culture. And so she felt like people were ridiculing her before she really settled into it. In the same way that, like, if you dress a new way for the first time, you feel like everyone's staring at you and laughing at you. Right. And then she weighs the benefits of being embarrassed by like playing the silly femme who then a like chivalrous mask can come save,
right?
Or having to suck up the embarrassment as a mask to get the beautiful femmes that she wants. Mm-hmm. And that also was a really interesting thing to me, because that is something that I think like I'm definitely guilty of doing every once in a while, of like, oh my gosh, that was so silly of me, I'm just a girl. When there's, I'm like embarrassed that I made some mistake, like some stupid mistake, and I'm like, oh my god, I can't believe I did that. So stupid little girl. When in reality I'm like actually smarter than that.
Right. Yeah.
And she considered doing it. But like there were all of these things that she was really processing about her gender presentation that night. And some of these things, it wasn't like my point being, some of these things were really thought out, processed, conscious decisions that she made and how she was going about and presenting herself, like the outfit she wore, and going forward with dealing with the embarrassment to be the mask so that she could get the femme.
Right.
But also, and that was in reference to like she sat in someone's seat. Okay. Right. But at the same time, she did really just thoughtless, like spur of the moment things, like give the name Alec.
Right. Which is a very masculine name. Even though in that situation with Manfred, if we were going to put them into more gendered roles, she would have been the femme.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Super interesting.
Yeah. So there's just a lot going on there.
Yeah. There's a lot. I love the way Margaret writes, and literally a 200-page book, and there's so much to unpack. Mm-hmm. But let's talk about Natalie Barney, and I'm pretty sure Gertrude Stein is the one who, whatchamacallit? Oh my God, my words are failing because I'm sick. My brain introduces them to each other, and Henri like doesn't know what to do with herself. She's like, I've never seen a woman like this before in my life. Like, so beautiful, so confident, doesn't care what the world thinks. And she's just like, I think I have a quote that I underlined, but my book is so far away from me now. That was like, she had me, like I said my name and she had me exactly where she wanted me. And Natalie and Gertrude are like in this like quasi competition over people and who goes to their salons and who has the better salon. And, and so, Gertrude's like, be careful with her. And Natalie's like, don't worry. Like, she's going to be in good hands, Gertrude, And Natalie is just this like enigmatic, charismatic woman. And yeah, let's talk a little bit about her and her salon and the trouble that Henri gets into there.
Let me figure out how to word this thought that I wrote.
When you're just like free writing.
Yeah. Something that happens to Henri and Natalie's salon is that like Natalie ignites her desire, and that's in contrast to how she's felt very infantilized by Gertrude.
Yeah. Ooh. Glad you took your time with that one because that was very good.
Thank you. And Henri has this ambition to, quote, sow the wild seeds of Sapphism. And this mission came from it's this mission to uncover the art crime ring insurance fraud, right, as a journalist. Yeah. And so like Natalie Barney is able to kind of revive this in her, and this brings her back to this whole concept of like the democracy of art. And this is a conversation that she had before with Gertrude of like, Gertrude thinks that art is democratic because anyone can enjoy it and whatever, but like Henri thinks that it's democratic because it considers the issues that are important to people. And so here she's kind of reconnecting with, again, like the humanistic experience and what's important to people. Like Natalie Barney is very in tune with that sort of thing, right? And so she's igniting this back in Henri, and she's seeing like a different side of Henri, and she's giving her like a little bit more agency.
Yeah, she's like, come be free, come learn, come ask questions, come speak not in riddles, come meet these other beautiful women who don't need you to be a mask in order to love them,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the other part of this is, I mean, like we said before, the collection of people that Natalie has, it's the best of the best. And so Natalie sees Henri as part of that because she sought her out. She sees Henri as part of the cream of the crop, which is a big deal.
Definitely. So Henri meets Natalie kind of offers this other woman up to Henri, which I did not know how I felt about that. I was like, obviously there would probably be sex workers like in the salons and things like that, but also like I think that Natalie is also just a really good matchmaker. I couldn't tell which way this was going. I was like, is this a hooker? Is this another author who Natalie was like, everyone just trusts Natalie's opinion. So when Natalie approached her and was like, I have this woman for you, she was just like, okay, whatever you say. How did you feel about this situation?
I think that she was part of the community. I don't think she was a sex worker.
Yeah.
However, I'm with you. This was confusing. So this was Simone. Henri she thinks it's a setup, like to be in a relationship with this woman, like to have hookup with Simone to maybe like build something more, right? But then she comes to find out that Natalie meant it as a warm up to get to sleep with her.
Yeah, which is crazy.
Yeah, and everyone else, I guess, like knew the implication, but not Henri because she's not familiar with the culture. It is like really kind of bizarre.
Yeah, I mean, they both enjoyed it, so whatever. But yeah, it warm up to sleep with Natalie. But the interesting part about that is like Henri is like, yes, intoxicated with Natalie, but she's so set on Manfred that she's just like, I don't really want you, Natalie. And I don't think Natalie ever experienced that before.
Mm-hmm.
which was kind of fun to read.
Yeah.
Even
And-
though I was rooting for it, I was like, do it, Henri, do it. I want to read it, do it.
Yeah. Well, and then the fact that she turns her down because she is just so infatuated with Manfred is gonna like really put her in hot water later because everyone knows why she turned down Natalie.
Right. Oh my God. I literally felt so bad for Henri once we found out who Manfred was and the implications of this. And like, again, like when that happened, I was like, see, Gertrude Stein's salon's better. Look at, why can't we all just be monogamous and be faithful and then nothing bad happens? Ugh. But anyway, where are we in the book?
Yeah. So, okay, this is a little bit unrelated to what we're on, but this is just like my note of the next thing that happened is one of the feedbacks that she gets from Irving P. Dickey, her editor. And this quote kind of made me giggle. And it's that he lets Henri know that En Vogue does not deal with matters of homosexuality and the ticklish issues of inversion.
Yes, which is crazy because that's very like veiled. It's very veiled. Like, hey, we don't want you talking about homosexuality. But then one of her last articles, he writes to her very, very clearly. He says, I literally underlined it and wrote, God damn. Because he says, furthermore, homosexuality is a topic more suited to medical journals than to art magazines. It is safe to say that if a subject crops up on the psychologist's couch, it does not belong in En Vogue. And I was like, this is where you see like certain parts of culture and this in what we're talking about right now, like the editorial thing. It's like we like it as long as it's veiled and can offer some like titillation. But if you're gonna write about it for real, we don't want that.
Mm-hmm.
And that sucks.
Yeah. I just found this quote that I think is saying Henri is agreeing exactly with you.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Perhaps I was more in Gertrude Stein's camp than I previously thought. Not exactly a wild fan of fidelity, but at least sensitive to the natural instincts of emotional territorialism.
Yes, I love that quote. And then hold on. I have another one. I have one that goes against it. Goes against what you were just that quote. I think it's Colette who's talking. Hold on, let me find it. That one? Yes. Okay. So, though paradoxical, her logic was classically sapphic, based on the premise that romantic rivalries fan the fires of passion. Right? So, that's the hard part because on one hand, it's like, oh, other people want my person and other people want me. Like, that's hot. I don't fall into that camp. I don't like that. But, and then on the other side, you know, your quote where it's like, I can understand that, like, I'm not the biggest fan of fidelity necessarily, but I understand why people want loyalty and fidelity. And, you know, we are all just girls. Like, we are all just humans who want to be loved and seen. And I think for me personally, I find that way more through monogamy than I would just like fucking around.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Same.
Yeah, we're just two monogamous girls. Okay?
Yeah, me being like, yeah, Natalie Barney as like the most monogamous person to ever live.
No, literally. I'm like, yeah, fuck Natalie, go do Manfred, woo! And then meanwhile, I'm like, don't ever fucking cheat on me.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to get to the big climax part. So so Henri is obsessed with Manfred. There is this big dinner / theater production at Natalie Barney's salon that's happening. And Henri has made friends with a lot of people. Like everyone has very much welcomed her with open arms. Especially at Natalie's salon. Like everyone's just like, great, like another person. This is awesome. What is the name of the woman? Hold on, I have it. Hold on, because I have a line that we have to talk about.
Thelma.
Thelma.
That's Manfred. Manfred is
No,
Thelma.
not her. Juna?
Her partner, Diana.
How do you say her name?
I think you say it Diana.
Djuna?
Yeah. Like Diana.
There's no A in there.
Yeah, but you know, like Diana.
How to pronounce French name Djuna? Hold on. Juna.
Really?
Yeah.
Juna?
Yeah. J-O the phonetics is Joo-Nuh. Juna.
All right. Juna.
Okay. Well, or Diana, whatever. Um so Juna is this woman in Natalie Barney's salon. It's been real. I honestly don't remember a lot about her. Is she the one that cut her hair short? Or was that was Colette? I don't know. There's a lot of women's names, a lot of French women's names. Anyway, Juna is very high esteem in this salon. She's been kind to Henri. She comes up behind her at this play and is just like vicious, like breathing fucking fire in her ear. And I forget what she says to her in her ear, but it was something along the lines of like, how could you should have known to like stay away, like everyone knows that, blah blah blah. And Henri was like, what the fuck, Juna, like we're friends, what are you talking about? And then everyone at the salon is like side-eyeing Henri, like just Henri is like on the outs and she has no idea what the fuck is happening until we find out who Manfred is. And Manfred is Thelma, which is Juna's partner, who is clearly a slut. But it's kind of like a don't ask, don't tell. Again, not using slut in necessarily a bad way, just as an indicator of she sleeps around a lot. No moral judgment there, but Juna is her partner and she hates that about her partner. But she also recognizes like this is what she does. But people are supposed to know in Natalie's salon that Thelma is off limits. You don't sleep with her because you don't want to hurt Juna, right? And that's your friend. And so this whole thing breaks down. And poor Henri is like, I didn't know. And Natalie's trying to help smooth it over. And she just says to Henri, like, you should just go talk to her. Go talk to her and tell her. And I was like, that's actually great advice because a lot of times you can fix conflict by just being honest and talking about it. But let me tell you, when I found out this was Thelma, I about shit my pants. I literally was like, oh no, like this is the worst thing that could have possibly happened. And the thing that makes it worse is that Thelma knew who Henri was and did it anyway, like literally like on purpose as like a sport.
Yeah. It was a game to her. It was very exciting. I mean, usually these people are completely off limits to her, and now like all of a sudden here's somebody who's naive and doesn't know.
And who's willing.
Yeah.
So she's like, fuck yeah, I got one. Which
yeah.
sucks. So, okay, I have this like back and forth that I literally said this is the most lesbian scenario to ever happen, which is when Henri goes and talks to Juna, and they do have a really good conversation. And Juna says to Henri, you really fell for her, didn't you? Henri says, yes, but I know I can't have her. I know that she's yours. And Juna says, she may not be anyone's. And Henri says, perhaps none of us are. So here she's kind of going into Natalie's idea of sexuality and that type of salon where it's like no one belongs to anyone, right? She says, perhaps none of us are, I said, but I had barely gotten the words out before I started to cry, wrenching, uncontrollable sobs that surprised me and made me grab onto myself to keep from breaking apart. And here's where the most lesbian thing to ever happen happens. And then Juna was crying. And before I knew it, we were on the divan, wailing in each other's arms, both completely abandoned to grief over everything we had ever lost, yet simultaneously
comforting each other like the sisters neither of us ever had. And I was like, if that is not just like the embodiment of women understanding women, and regardless of like the hurt Henri unintentionally inflicted on Juna, they're going to comfort each other in each other's hurt.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't
Loved
anyone's
this
fault.
scene.
And I literally was like almost crying at this because I was just like, I just love women. Like, we are so kind to each other a lot of the times. You know, even when you think someone's being unkind to you, like there's still humanity and there's still like a love that surpasses the hurt. And I found Juna and Henri like bonding over their hurt of loss and of the world not being the way they want it to be, and having to confront that and the immeasurable pain that brings. And they're like, we're just going to hold each other and cry.
Yeah.
And then we will feel better. So poor Henri, poor Juna, fucking Thelma, what a fucking bitch. And like to hurt your partner like that, I'm just like, Juna, like, come on, babe, like, get out of that.
Yeah. It's really interesting the take in this book on why Juna and Henri both like Thelma too.
Yeah.
And that was that she is like a beast whose presence does nothing to disrupt their isolation.
Mm-hmm.
Because Juna and Henri are both two of the same kind, right? That they both are, they're introverts and they like to kind of have their solitude, but then have like somebody there. Just, I think that I can't word it any better than that, like someone who doesn't disrupt their isolation.
Right.
And we know that Juna was once Henri's idol.
Thank you. I forgot about that part. And that made it even worse. Juna was the one that when Henri walked into the salon and saw her was like aghast. Like, I cannot believe I'm in the same room as this woman. Like, you know, you would never do anything to hurt someone you admire. You would never do anything intentionally to hurt someone you look up to. Like, you want to learn from them. You want to be their friend. You want to be in their good graces.
Mm-hmm.
And then for her, like, idol to come up to her and be like, I fucking hate you. She was just like even more hurt. And especially not knowing, when you don't know what you did wrong, I feel like that's the worst place to be. And then the fact that you wronged someone you care so much about their opinion, you're just like this little, like, I just see like a little shrinking person and falling into another person's pocket, just hiding, you know? Yeah, Juna, and then to be comforted by your idol in recognition of like each other's humanity, I feel like helped heal something in Henri about the whole situation and the way she was seeing, you know, both of the salons and the moralities. I feel like it was just a very like turning point of like, all of this is hard. There's no good way to exist in the world. You're always going to hurt someone. But like, how do you move through life knowing these things now?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So this is where we transition into where Margaret leads us from the end of this book into Craze.
Yes.
And this is Henri has this offer from one of the salon attendees to become the editor of a newspaper in New York. And she decides to take that offer.
Mm-hmm.
And to go do that, as long as she can have her own column doing that. And this is a really big choice for her because she loves her life in Paris. However, Paris has become to her what feels like hiding in a closet of safety. And it's like this network of queer artists, but it's so like insulated from the rest of the world that it is like staying in the closet. and what she aspires to be is a fearless journalist. And so staying in this safety there's a dissonance to her between how she sees herself and like the version of herself that she wants to be versus where she's stuck at now. And so she makes the choice to make the jump to New York City. And it's also, you know, part of this, a big feed into what helped her make this decision is this feedback from her editor at Vogue. And she's faced with the problem of writing the truth, like the sapphic truth, or kind of like putting a fog over it to get published because of her audience. And this is something when she's writing about Romaine that we really see, because I'm going to read this quote. And then I knew I was in trouble, because there was no nice way to the readers of En Vogue that Romaine's androgynies had ascended to a higher spiritual plane. How could I explain to Americans who quote God incessantly but know nothing of spirituality? ... And that right there is the big, like, that's the big thing. That's the big thing to her. She wants to be honest. Like, she needs an audience who will let her just be honest, and that wasn't where she was.
Yeah. And when you come from a life of hiding and dishonesty, kind of the way Henri is, and you get a taste of freedom and honesty, you can't really go back. It's near impossible because it feels so disingenuous.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, Henri becomes the editor, and then we get everything that happens in Craze.
Yeah. She's had a transformation over this book from an aardvark into an emboldened activist who's ready to do what's right for herself. And she quotes, "My most important decisions had always been made while putting one foot in front of the other." Very astute saying from her.
Yeah.
And she shaves her head to finish off the book. And as she says, she looked more feminine than ever, which I thought was extremely fitting.
I love that. I think that's so beautiful. I loved it. 10 out of 10. Margaret, we love your writing. Write more, please. Write more about Henri or any other fictional character you come up with. We'd love to read. Yeah, 10 out of 10. Always. 100 out of 10. Loved it.
It was phenomenal.
Okay, what's next up on the docket, Haley?
Next up, everyone needs to go read Tangled Darkness. This is... Hold on, everyone. Hold on.
I am thoroughly enjoying it, and I'm only like 50 pages in.
Yeah, I have to pull it up because on my book it says it's by Rowan Prose Publishing, but that's not the author's name. The author is Mary Desch. Okay.
Yes. Oh my God, so smart, so brilliant. I love the way this book is written. I can't. I'm already like enraptured. I'm like enthralled. I love this is like a I say psychological thriller, but she's a psychologist. Like
She is.
right. So I'm like, it's a psychological thriller, but it's based on psychologists. So I'm obsessed. I think it's gonna be so good.
Yeah, and actually, you guys, this book, let me find the release date.
Yeah. So we have an advanced reader copy.
Yeah, this will release July 15th.
Yeah.
So that's when you'll be able to get your copy of Tangled Darkness. We're going to release our episode when the book releases. So you'll be able to listen and it'll coincide with that. Yeah. Be on the lookout for that because it's like it's a thriller. It's very mysterious. It's got some sapphicness. Okay.
Obviously.
So, obviously, otherwise, what are we doing here?
Right?
Duh.
This is lesbian book club, like I say every day on this podcast. Yeah, so we can't wait for you guys to read it. Please read American in Paris. Let us know your thoughts, or Craze. We'd love to hear your thoughts on that. And yeah, we'll talk to you guys soon.
We love you.
Love you guys. Bye.
Bye.